All right, hello everyone. Welcome to my channel. This channel is for educational purposes, and we learn about theories of everything, including the reciprocal system of theory. Not just a theory, but a system of theory. So if you understand the system, you can plug it into any subject that you'd like. And that's what we tend to do on this channel, look at theories of everything or potential theories of everything. Usually on the obscure side, not necessarily, but in this case, I've actually been studying the reciprocal system for over 20 years, and I have never once met a person in the flesh who knows anything whatsoever about it. So hopefully I can, make some contacts here with some other people on this channel, and we can talk about it, and we can work develop some more ideas about the reciprocal system, because the founder, Dewey B. Larson, is now deceased, and most of his followers are also deceased, although there are a few people that are still working on it. But I've just never met anybody in the flesh. Okay, the basic idea behind the reciprocal system is that we live in a universe that is made out of motion, not matter, not energy, but motion. Motion, matter and energy are merely two different kinds of motion. All kinds of motion are a relationship, basically a fraction, a relationship between space and time. So space and time are, space or time is the numerator, and time or space is the denominator of a fraction that is motion. So all of the scientific quantities that we know of are merely fractions of time and space. So matter, for example, is time to the third power over space to the third power. Energy is simply time over space. And there are many other motions that we're more familiar with, like speed. Speed is simply space over time. The bike is moving 20 miles per hour, 20 miles of space and 1 hour of time. Acceleration, I dropped the ball out the window and it fell at 9.8 meters per second squared. That's acceleration. Space over time squared. And so on and so forth. So, and that serves as a powerful check on the system. But also, so space and time have their coordinate aspects. Each one of them comes in multiple dimensions, 3 or more dimensions, just like coordinate space, XYZ coordinates. And each time and space both also have their clock aspects. The clock of time is always ticking forward. Time is always getting later and later and later, the progression or flow of time. And space also has that quality of progressing. Space is always getting farther and farther and farther apart. And that was observed by the Hubble telescope way back in the 1920s. All of the distant galaxies are moving away from each other. The further away they are, the faster they're moving away from each other. You would envision that by taking a balloon and a magic marker, put a bunch of dots on the balloon, you blow up the balloon, all of the dots are moving away from each other. You can extend the analogy by using something like raisin bread instead. When you put the raisin bread in the oven, all of the raisins, and it starts to rise, all of the raisins are moving away from each other, but in no particular direction. And so all of those directions are pretty much summed up by the net motion. And the net motion is the ticking of the clock. It just goes around and around and around at the same speed. So this is a one-dimensional motion, but it's really the net of several different motions that we can't resolve them. So we just see the net, and that is the clock. And then time and space also both have their quantized or discrete unit quality. Time and space do not have they're not continuous. They have a minimum quantity, 1. There's a minimum unit of space and a minimum unit of time. If you have less than a unit of space, you don't have space. You only have time. The universe is made out of motion. Motion is the relationship between space and time. So the entire universe is made out of either time or space or both. And so if you have less than 1 unit of time, or space, either one, you don't have that. You only have the other. So within a unit of space, you have what Larson calls the time region. And within a unit of time, you have what Larson calls the space region. And those are both subregions of the 2 major regions of the universe, which have to do with the boundary. And the boundary is 1. Now, normally in legacy science, the boundary is 0. And then you go +1, +2, +3, and you go -1, -2, -3. But in the reciprocal system, it's a multiplicative system. So 1 is the center, and you go plus, 2, 3, 4. And on the negative side, you go 1/2, 1/3, 1/4. Okay, and so the maximum on the positive side is infinity, and the minimum on the negative side is 0. So that is how you do that for the reciprocal system. So if you have a discrete unit postulate, when you have 1 unit of space in 1 unit of time, 1/1, you have 1 unit speed. The space over time is speed. So unit speed is the speed of light. So the speed of light is the divider between these 2 major sectors of the universe, which Larson calls the material sector and the cosmic sector. So the cosmic sector is moving faster than the speed of light. And within the cosmic sector, you have the space region that's within 1 unit of time. And on the other side, you have the material sector, which is what we're more familiar with. And the material sector has a subregion that Larson calls the time region. That is everything that is within 1 unit of space. And that is the region of, atoms and molecules. Okay, now that's just a quick introduction. Now, Larson developed this theory basically from that initial postulate and one other minor postulate, and basically went through a period of deduction, if this then that, if this then that, and built up an entirely theoretical universe, which he eventually compared with the legacy scientist universe in fields such as physics and astrophysics and chemistry, astronomy, but also economics and metaphysics and some other subjects. And some of his followers went into other subjects as well. Larson then died back in 1990, and his theory was carried forward. There were some minor mistakes, even semi-major mistakes in the application of the theory. The theory itself is correct. The application, as Larson admitted, could be subject to some mistakes, the process of deduction. And some of those mistakes kind of began to show themselves, and people like Dr. Bruce Perret and Dr. KVK Nehru came to the rescue and came up with some other ways of looking at it. They developed something that was called RS2, Reciprocal System 2, which took Larson's basic ideas and kind of melded them with some other thought, ancient thought, especially yin-yang principles of Taoism, and quite a few other things too, projective geometry, and did some great work. Now Dr. Perret has also passed away, and Dr. Nehru is way over in India, and so we're trying to salvage what we can of the reciprocal system and move it forward, because it's got great potential. So right now we're looking at an article that was written by Dr. Perret under the pen name of Daniel Phoenix III. These are called the Daniel Papers, and he wrote a 4-article set called the Anthropology series, The Origins of Homo Sapiens. And we are looking at paper number 2 right now, which is about Project Bluebeam, which you may know as the fake alien invasion, which is creeping right up on us right now. And we are about to start a section here that's called Resistance is Futile, Evolution is Effective. And he had just introduced this by talking about the Tomorrow People, which was a British TV series back in the 70s, done by Roger Damon Price. So he's going to elaborate on that, and we are going to let him go right here. In Price's series, The Tomorrow People, young people developed ESP, extrasensory perception, or psychic ability, what we call nowadays psionics. These homo novus shared a specific worldview centered around personal evolution to become peaceful explorers of the universe. As an impressionable teenager at the time, it was one of those public TV shows that my friends and I would rush home to watch, as it gave us hope that there just might be a chance that we could grow up in a world that worked together for the betterment of mankind, even if children had to lead the way. Within the framework of the reciprocal system of theory, psionics are a natural consequence of the continued evolution of life units, creating a new third level of existence for mankind. The first level being the inanimate, and the second being biological organisms. Because of this theory of everything basis, man, left to his own mechanisms, will eventually outgrow the need for competition, rivalry, and fighting, and evolve into an ethical being, with the tools, knowledge, and compassion necessary to work in rapport with all life. Some are already standing on that threshold. However, there are sinister forces at work, as described earlier, that are consciously trying to prevent this evolution of mankind. As Larson describes, ethical man is an evolving subset of Cro-Magnon man. Not many, but some. And this is a quote from Larson. It is therefore evident that we cannot equate man with the level 3 structure in the same manner that we were able to equate life with the level 2 structure, biological organisms. Rather, we will have to identify the level 3 structure with an idealized kind of human, an ethical man, let us say, giving the term ethical a very broad meaning. The boundary line between level 2 and level 3, then, is not between animal and man, but between man and ethical man. However much of the human race is partly across the boundary, that is, each of these many individuals is at some times and to some degree under the domination of Sector 3 control unit rather than the Sector 2 life unit. Larson continues to analyze his level 3 and the influences of sector 3 control units that creates an ethical consciousness, determining that this is where mankind exhibits his finest features: rapport, compassion, moderation, self-sacrifice, and the conscious use of psionic skills. Since both halves of the universe, the physical slash material and the metaphysical slash cosmic, are available to consciousness. Those are the two sectors that we were talking about that are divided by the speed of light. The material sector slower than the speed of light, the cosmic sector faster than the speed of light. So again, he'll say, since both halves of the universe, the physical slash material and the metaphysical slash cosmic, are available to consciousness. When someone of any age comes under the influence of these Sector 3 control units, their motivations switch from the biologic rivalry of competition to the ethical rapport of cooperation. They become a tomorrow person, and it is a no turning back situation. Once you access that level as part of your being, you begin to understand things for what they are, not just see them as presented to you, which is why the New World Order folks must prevent this evolution from happening. It cannot be turned back once it does. So as long as you are following their artificial paths to ascension, trapped within their artificial boundaries, resistance is futile. Cross the lines that aren't actually there, and you'll find evolution is effective. Okay, that's the end of this section. I just want to put my 2 cents in a little bit here. I totally agree with the general tenor of what he's saying and his application of the reciprocal system, but I do want to push back on a couple concepts and the source of those concepts. I've never watched this TV show, The Tomorrow People, but you know, Perret has a tendency to get really into science fiction and to be somewhat convinced and form his worldview out of science fiction. But he doesn't seem to recognize that science fiction is also, especially when it's on television, is also a New World Order production. And that him and his friends rushing home to watch The Tomorrow People, it's not necessarily any different than somebody rushing home to watch MSNBC or Fox. You know, it could be just another form of brainwashing. Doesn't mean that it has to be, but you know, it doesn't seem like that's occurred to him. And then also, you know, especially when this show appears to elevate children to the leadership positions in the society, you know, and we've seen that here. You know, now Perret was writing this paper 10 years ago or 11 years ago, but, or I'm not sure how many years ago, at least back to 2015. And that was before all this gender bending stuff and gender bending surgeries and stuff that are advocated by little kids being the, you know, be all end all. And so, you know, it appears that he's just kind of falling into that trap where he's saying, oh, you know, things should be led by little kids. And, you know, he says, even if children had to lead the way. Well, you know, that's where we're at right now. And I don't think that Dr. Perret would be too in favor of that if he were alive still and seeing what was going on. And then the other thing I'm pushing back with is his utter hatred of competition. You know, I don't know. I know that Dr. Perret was a pretty burly kind of like a bear. One of his nicknames was Lone Bear, and he was, maybe he wasn't good at sports when he was growing up or whatever, but he has a hatred of competition, and even friendly competition he has a hatred of. And I just don't see that. I see that competition is the way that you sharpen your blade. You know, you that's how you get to peak performance, whether you're competing with yourself or somebody else. That provides you with your edge to get to your peak performance. And I'm all in favor of rapport and cooperation, but I do see great value in competition, and I also see great value in teamwork. And in fact, I see that in this society right now, as we are, a lot of the people that don't have a clue what's going on right now are that way because they never played team sports when they were growing up. And so they have no concept of really what's going on. Those are that between the lack of competition that people have had and the lack of ability to do math. Those are what I see as kind of like the touchstones of people who don't have a clue what's going on right now and are going right along with the tyranny without even seeing it, because they don't know how to do math, and so they don't know how to think logically, and they don't have never played as part of a team, and so they don't have any of those concepts in them. So that's my little rant about, somewhat relevant, maybe somewhat not relevant to what Perret is saying. So we just basically just covered that one section: resistance is futile, evolution is effective. The next section is called the boundaries of your mind, and we will resume with that section starting tomorrow. So thanks for tuning in for today, and hope to see you tomorrow. Have a great day.